This question has massive implications, both for theological purposes and for practical purposes within the counseling room. Theologically, this question points us back to the previous questions about the Trinity and the attributes of God. Because if we have been made in the image of God, we need to know God first before we can understand who we are as men who have been made in His image. This is a completely different perspective than the secular evolutionary worldview, which sees man as nothing more than the culmination of an evolutionary process, and thus nothing more than advanced animals, and thus looks for our origins and identity downward to this earth, trying to find our significance in the animal kingdom. Whereas the Bible points us up to God, showing us that our identity and our origin is to be found in a gracious God who loves us and intricately and specifically made us and shared with us some of His attributes so that we can be like Him, thus possessing intrinsic value. So the image of God has huge implications for our understanding of God and our identity as those who have been made by Him and to be like Him. When it comes to the counseling room, this is intensely practical because the image of God gives us both the originally intended design for man and the ultimate goal of man and of counseling. The Bible tells us that we were originally created in the image of God in a state of sinless perfection that God declared to be very good. Yet, because of sin, that image has been marred. And even though that image still remains, it is now tainted by sin, and we do not bear the image of God as we once did. But because of the gospel, we are in a process of having that image restored as Christ is being formed in us day by day. To be a Christian means that you are a follower of Christ, and as such, you are declaring a desire to be more like Him. And as you are becoming more like Him, the more you are being restored into the image of God, who is Christ. So when it comes to defining our terms, obviously you need to define what is meant by the phrase, the image of God, which that is basically to say that man is similar to and representative of God. And like we said in a previous video, being made in the image of God means that you are made by God to be like God, to live for God. We have been made by God, meaning that He is the one who made us. We have been made to be like God, for He shared certain attributes with us so that we can be His representatives. And as His representatives, it is not up for us to decide how we are to live, but we are to live for Him, living in such a way that shows that He is most important and not us. When it comes to Bible verses to reference, there are a number of verses in Genesis that specifically reference the image of God. Colossians 1 and Hebrews 1 are passages that refer to Christ as the image of God. Romans 8:28 and 29 is another good passage that should be highlighted because it is there that Paul speaks of how God is working all things for good, and the good that he is referring is that those who have been called according to His purposes are to become more like Christ. And it will be important for you to discuss passages such as Ephesians 4 and Colossians 3, which talk about the process of becoming more like Christ. When it comes to an outline for this question, you should cover things such as, obviously, a good definition of the phrase, the image of God, including good biblical support for your definition. You should also include some elements on how being made in the image of God makes humans distinct from the rest of creation in terms of intelligence, morality, authority, and relationship. You should also include a paragraph on how the image of God is restored through the put off and the put on process of biblical counseling.